People who are still against making love in bed before marriage, why? My cousin is very religious. He met a girl in January, proposed in February and married in June. No one in my family will admit it, but I'm pretty sure they moved so fast because they're horny, lol. This happens a lot in Brazil. Also, some girls only let guys hit from the back door to preserve their chastity. Go figure. My cousin does it too, but every time she gets together with a dude and starts mentioning marriage and stuff, they run away. Personally, I'm not against it, but I know someone that is. And she said she personally wants to share that experience only with one person in her life and wants to be sure that they'll be together forever, so she wants to be married before. What was interesting to me was that she said she wouldn't mind if her then husband would have not waited. It's just her preference. I don't share that opinion, but I understand her point of view. My reasons were religious mainly. On top of it, I find this experience to be very exposing and something to do when I feel safe and close. I never wanted a relationship built on sex or physical and that only. I wanted to build a relationship on trust and communication first and physical second, and that boundary helped me do that. I was against it before marriage when I was younger because why would you want to it before you have to? Turns out I'm asexual and just didn't know that other people do have a desire for that kind of thing and actually want to have sex. I always legitimately thought this was made up. As a woman, setting boundaries helped me find quality men who were interested in me as a partner instead of just physical pleasure. Plus, to me, the key to a successful marriage has more to do with communication and the ability to resolve conflict rather than the experience in bed. It's worth it to focus on building up those skills instead of a sexual relationship which is often built on infatuation. My wife waited for personal and religious reasons, which is fine. I did not. It is just a choice after all. However, after years of marriage we have come to realize we got extremely lucky with sexual compatibility/personality. Because any good marriage will have each person learning how to please the other. The issue is if you fundamentally want different things in the bedroom. Which of course you don't know what you like if you have never tried things, and that simply can't be solved by communication. I know a couple of my friends who loved someone while in school and got married to them later, and didn't do it with anyone including their partners until they got married. Their love wasn't based on sexual fling but rather emotional, understanding and personality. Happily married ever after. Even if you ignore the religious/moral arguments, waiting poses far fewer risks of STDs, unwanted pregnancies when you're not ready for a kid, and even just avoiding regrets if you break up before getting married and wish you hadn't slept with them. I don't care at all about what other people do as long as there's mutual, meaningful consent. That I was against it before marriage because I didn't want a kid before I was in a stable enough situation to take care of one, and I did not consider any level of risk greater than 0 to be acceptable. That said, there was a whole lot of foreplay for a few years, which includes hitting from the back door. There's a couple things I'd like to address. Just because someone has done it before marriage doesn't mean they don't know the person very well. Personally, I'd never have a relationship with anyone who I didn't know very well. So just because you might have engaged in this kind of act before marriage doesn't mean you're in the hookup culture. Another thing is that two people making love has nothing to do with hookup culture. You could totally be someone who only believes in it after marriage and still be taken advantage of. I had multiple partners before marriage. My wife was a virgin. The difference in our experience caused more issues than it helped, and a large part was because our baselines were different. I unnecessarily caused insecurities in her, because she was comparing herself against however she imagined my previous partners were. If I could do it all over again, I'd have been a virgin when we met. Part of our growth over the years has been getting better at that kind of experience together. The culmination of all the sex I had before my wife is meaningless in the face of living our lives together. This is such a difficult one. The thing that legit holds me back from doing it only after marriage is the fact that you might not be compatible in the bed, and the fact that if you really are attracted to that person physically, aren't you horny all the time seeing your loved one? Like, how do you just suppress it without it escalating to doing it for years at least? I like the thought of sharing that vulnerability with only one other person. Less people I have done it with, the lower my chances of getting a disease is, no pregnancy scares, and honestly, the thought of going through and growing together and getting better at it is kinda appealing. Oh, never thought I would share my thought on it anywhere, but here it comes. First, I'm not even remotely religious, but still on my own decided to do it only after marriage comes around. The thing is, I had that drive to do it, but for some reason I somewhat restrained myself to be sure it's special experience for special one. Well, almost everyone who I dated was pretty chill about it, but in just a few weeks almost everyone started looking at me like piece of meat and was trying to talk me into doing it. I didn't comply, and here goes the relationship. The last guy didn't even want any extra foreplay because it could make me turn on my promise to myself. Well, here we are 6 years after, happily married with tons of special moments in the bed and not just there. One kid and one more on the way. P.S. He has done with his previous partners, so I wasn't his first. I used to have a lot. But I decided to wait until marriage. I just started feeling empty after my BFS would leave, or I felt a lot like men only wanted me for just the bed experience. So a couple months ago I made the decision to wait, and I've stuck to it so far. I just feel like the person who deserves to share that moment with me will only deserve it when they prove they are there for me and not my body. Maybe if I get to have a relationship again, then after a year I'll do it, or if we're engaged. It's not a religious thing, but I felt like having done it with different guys made me think about them too much and I got too attached. It was bad for me mentally. As someone who didn't, I wish I did. I don't like the comparisons that I make subconsciously, and I do think there would be a more specialness to the moments of firsts if they were only with one person. Plus, it's a good sign of boundaries and it makes sure that there's a foundation outside of what I can physically provide to the relationship. We did it for religious purposes. We also just didn't want to squander it on just anyone. Only the one we were meant for. We dated for 4 years, been married for 7. We just had our first baby. Life's never been better and neither of us regret waiting. I wouldn't say I'm against it, but I think people need to be realistic about the emotional investment involved. For most people, it's not just going to be fire and forget. You kind of give a piece of yourself to a person you have done it with. It's very intimate. If you have done it with enough different people, then maybe it won't mean anything anymore. I don't know, but I don't think it's just an activity like any other. I don't personally believe in hookups or flings, personal belief, but I have nothing against people who do, so in that sense I'm traditional, but no cakes before marriage sounds like a recipe for disaster. A disappointing bed life with someone too arrogant to change is a great way to ruin a relationship, so no, doing it before marriage sounds like a great way to drive divorce rate up.